1922. A man just lost his life savings on a stock. That never actually existed. He didn't get scammed by a con artist in a back alley. He got scammed by a business with a storefront, a ticker machine, and a sign on the door. This is the story of the men who invented the meme stock pump and dump 100 years before Reddit. Meet Tommy. Tommy is not a broker. Tommy owns a bucket shop. And if you've never heard that term, you're about to understand exactly why it should scare you. A bucket shop looked like a real brokerage. Ticker tape, chalkboards, men in suits yelling numbers. But here's the twist nobody tells you. When you placed a bet in Tommy's shop, he never bought a single share. Not one. You weren't investing. You were betting against the house. And the house always knew something you didn't. So how does a fake stock exchange even convince anyone to walk through the door? Simple. It looked exactly like the real thing, and it was easier to get into than the real thing. In the actual 1920s stock market, you needed real money, a real broker, and real patience. At Tommy's place, you needed pocket change. Some bucket shops let you place a bet with as little as 1% margin. That means with just $10, you could control $1,000 worth of stock. It felt like getting rich on a shoestring. In reality, it meant the tiniest price wiggle, even one that was completely fake, could wipe you out in seconds. Tommy didn't advertise that part. Here's the part that should genuinely make your jaw drop. In 1889, decades before this story even starts, bucket shops were moving 7 times more trading volume than the entire New York Stock Exchange. Let that sink in. More people were gambling on fake trades than making real ones. And Tommy's cut wasn't small. He made money 2 ways, a commission on every bet and the house edge, because statistically, most small traders lose. It's the same math as a casino. Tommy didn't need to predict the market. He just needed you to keep playing. Let's follow one of Tommy's regulars. Call him Henry. Henry works a normal job. He hears about the market from a friend of a friend, wanders into Tommy's shop on his lunch break, and puts down a small bet on a stock going up. It works. He doubles his money in an afternoon, so he comes back the next day, and the day after that. This is the actual design of the business. Not one big con, but 1,000 small wins that keep you coming back, followed by one loss big enough to take everything you put in. Sound familiar? It should. It's the exact same psychological hook that modern trading apps and casinos still use today. But here's the detail almost nobody covers, the part that makes this the original market manipulation scandal. If too many of Tommy's customers bet the same direction on a stock, Tommy had a problem. If that stock went up, he'd owe everyone money at once. So Tommy did something wild. He'd pay an actual broker on the real exchange to sell just enough shares to fake a price drop, a move called a wash sale. The real market barely noticed, but Tommy's rigged tape, it showed a crash. Every customer betting on that stock got wiped out instantly by a price movement that was 100% manufactured just for them. Henry was one of those customers. One afternoon, he and a friend were both betting against the same stock, confident it would fall. Then, out of nowhere, the ticker jumped. The price spiked just long enough to trigger their stop loss and wipe out their margin. And then it quietly drifted back down to exactly where it started. Henry didn't lose because he read the market wrong. He lost because, for about 90 seconds, the market Tommy showed him wasn't real. This is genuinely one of the earliest documented forms of coordinated market manipulation in American history. And it was completely legal for decades because nobody had written a law against it yet. Now here's where the story gets stranger. And this is the part your history teacher never taught you. Bucket shops weren't just scam factories. They accidentally became training grounds for legends. A young trader named Jesse Livermore, later nicknamed the Boy Plunger, cut his teeth betting in bucket shops just like Tommy's. He started as a teenager, chalking prices on the board for a few dollars a week, and started noticing patterns in how prices moved right before they moved. He got so good at reading the tape that shop owners started banning him, one after another, across multiple cities. He wasn't gambling. He was pattern matching their fake system faster than they could rig it. And by the time he moved on to the real stock exchange, he had already made and lost several fortunes purely on bucket shop bets. And here's a detail almost nobody puts in these videos. Some bucket shops were women only. In an era when women couldn't even legally own a brokerage account on Wall Street, these underground shops became one of the only places American women could speculate on the market at all. One of them was described at the time as filled with elderly maidens and widows. Hardly the Wall Street stereotype you're picturing. For a lot of these women, the bucket shop wasn't a scam they stumbled into by accident. It was the only door on the entire street that would let them in. But Tommy's golden age was already ending. Real exchanges hated bucket shops. They drained volume and made Wall Street look like a casino, which it kind of was. So, exchanges cut off bucket shops' access to live prices. States passed anti-bucketing laws one after another. Police started literally raiding shops in broad daylight, hauling out chalkboards and ticker machines while crowds gathered outside to watch. By the early 1920s, right as the roaring 20s boom was taking off, the bucket shop as a business model was being hunted to extinction. Tommy's storefront padlocked, his ticker confiscated, and ironically, the same crackdown that killed bucket shops pushed millions of small investors onto the real stock exchange for the first time. Suddenly, the same appetite for cheap, easy speculation that used to live inside bucket shops was flowing directly into the real market, feeding directly into the massive, unregulated retail boom that would help cause the 1929 crash. Tommy's scam didn't just disappear. In a strange way, it graduated. So why does any of this matter today? Because the bucket shop never actually died. It just changed shape. Modern binary options platforms, some offshore CFD brokers, even certain prediction market apps run on the exact same core idea. You're not buying the asset, you're betting against the house on its price. And the GameStop saga in 2021. Historians have directly compared it to bucket shop mania. Swarms of small traders, wild price swings, and a financial establishment scrambling to explain why the amateurs shouldn't be allowed to play. The names changed. The suits changed. The core trick, let people bet on numbers they don't fully understand and let the house quietly control the outcome, never really left. Tommy's storefront is gone, but Tommy's business model, it's still running, just with better graphics, a smartphone app, and a much friendlier interface. 100 years before Reddit threads and trading apps, guys like Tommy figured out the same lesson Wall Street keeps relearning every generation. When people don't understand what they're betting on, someone always builds a shop to take their money. If you want the next one of these, the grave robbers medical schools secretly paid, or the guy running a nuclear button on a 24-hour shift during the Cold War, subscribe because that's exactly what's coming next.